Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to share this one with you. Today, we're taking a clear, structured, and visually stunning journey through one of history's most fascinating arcs. We're looking at the rise, the ruin, and the highly surprising redemption of the ancient world's greatest merchant empire, the city of Tyre. We're going to decode Isaiah chapter 23 together, visualizing the absolute breathtaking scope of this historical prophecy.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our chronological roadmap for Isaiah 23. First, we've got the burden of Tyre. Second, fleeing the island city. Third, the price of pride. Followed by 70 years of silence. And finally, restoration and redemption.
Starting off with Section 1, the burden of Tyre, the ancient world's shipping capital, falls.
So let's set the scene. Imagine a bustling, ultra-wealthy Mediterranean port city that's about to receive some absolutely devastating news. Isaiah chapter 23, verse 1 kicks things off with a heavy warning. The burden of Tyre. Howl ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no entering in. From the land of Chittim it is revealed to them. Now picture these merchant ships. They're harboring at Chittim, which is modern-day Cyprus, just making their way home. And it's right there, docked in Cyprus, that they hear this shocking, horrifying rumor. Their home port, the great impregnable stronghold of Tyre, is totally destroyed. No houses left, no access to its harbors, just gone.
To really grasp the geopolitics at play here, we need to quickly ground ourselves geographically. Zidon, or Sidon, was a major colony of Phoenicia. Think of it as the mother city, where the seafaring people of Tyre originally came from. So within the context of this text, Tyre is essentially viewed as the incredibly wealthy daughter of Sidon.
So, you might be wondering, how exactly did this daughter city get so insanely rich? Well, verses 2 and 3 explain it perfectly. And by great waters the seed of Sihor, the harvest of the river, is her revenue, and she is a mart of nations. This is just fascinating. The seed of Sihor is actually referring to the dark waters of the Nile River down in Egypt. Tyre built massive global revenue by shipping Egyptian grain across the Mediterranean to the rest of the known world. She was literally the central marketplace, the ultimate shipper for the nations.
Moving into Section 2, fleeing the island city, the grief of the mother city, and the fear of Egypt. You know, when a superpower falls, the ripple effects cause absolute panic among its allies. The tragedy really deepens in verse 4. Be thou ashamed, O Zidon, for the sea hath spoken, even the strength of the sea, saying, I travail not, nor bring forth children, neither do I nourish up young men, nor bring up virgins. This is poetic tragedy at its absolute finest. Zidon, that mother city we just talked about, is depicted as weeping over her daughter. The island city of Tyre, the strength of the sea, sits totally bereaved. Brutal warfare has wiped out her young population, leaving absolutely no power to rebuild or renew.
And that panic? It spread south. Isaiah chapter 23, verses 5 and 6 state, As at the report concerning Egypt, so shall they be sorely pained at the report of Tyre. Historical commentators note that when Egypt heard the news, their officials physically trembled. Why? Well, they knew that if Tyre had fallen to the Babylonians, and later the Greeks, those massive armies were heading their way next. Tyre was their ultimate buffer, and suddenly, that buffer was just gone.
Then, verse 7 asks this really haunting question. Is this your joyous city, whose antiquity is of ancient days? Her own feet shall carry her afar off to sojourn. Tyre was an absolute powerhouse of the ancient world. Actually, according to historical legend, noted in the sources, it was founded way back around 2750 BCE. And now, the citizens of this joyous, incredibly ancient city are forced onto their own feet, fleeing as refugees to the extreme outer edges of their former trade routes.
All right, Section 3, the price of pride. A divine plan to humble the honorable. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the question it poses regarding why this great city had to fall. This isn't just a record of warfare, it's an analysis of cause and effect. Verse 8 asks, Who hath taken this counsel against Tyre, the crowning city, whose merchants are princes, whose traffickers are the honorable of the earth? Just think about the sheer scale here. Tyre was known as the crowning city because it literally distributed crowns to its dependent provinces. It founded major colonies like Carthage in Africa. Its merchants were basically equal to princes. So who could possibly have the power to bring them down?
The answer comes right back in verse 9. The Lord of hosts hath purposed it, to stain the pride of all glory, and to bring into contempt all the honorable of the earth. So here's the absolutely crucial point of this explainer. Tyre's ultimate downfall was its immense unchecked pride. The text frames the ruin of Tyre as a deliberate, divine lesson for the great ones of the earth to see just how displeasing the sin of hubris really is. Basically, he who exalts himself shall be abased.
So how exactly was this seemingly invincible stronghold destroyed? Verses 10 through 12 lay it out. He stretched out his hand over the sea. He shook the kingdoms. The Lord hath given a commandment against the merchant city to destroy the strongholds thereof. The island stronghold of Tyre was widely considered impregnable. No way anyone was getting in. But here's the amazing historical fulfillment. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great fulfilled this text literally. He leveled the mainland city, and his soldiers took those stones and literally threw them into the sea to build a physical land bridge directly to the island stronghold.
Let's take a closer look at how perfectly the ancient text aligns with Alexander's famous military tactics. He breached that island stronghold in 332 BC by building that incredible causeway using the very stones of the mainland city. Furthermore, the text prophesied that even if the Tyrians fled to Chittim, again, that's Cyprus, they would find no rest. And historically, Cyprus surrendered to the Greeks without a fight before Tyre even fell. There was literally nowhere for them to hide.
The narrative then shifts to the specific instruments of this destruction. Verse 13 states, "Behold, the land of the Chaldeans, this people was not, till the Assyrian founded it for them that dwell in the wilderness. They set up the towers thereof, they raised up the palaces thereof, and he brought it to ruin." This verse brilliantly unpacks the history of the Chaldeans, or the Babylonians. They were originally this obscure wilderness-dwelling people living in tents, right? Up until the Assyrians built and beautified Babylon for them.
And this perfectly illustrates the incredible churning succession of empires that ultimately brought Tyre to ruin. Think about it. We see Assyria besieging Babylon in 689 BC, but the tables turn, and those wilderness-dwelling Babylonians defeat Assyria in 612 BC. Then Babylon conquers mainland Tyre in 590 BC, laying the exact groundwork for Alexander the Great to finish the job by breaching the island centuries later in 332 BC. It's like a giant historical puzzle coming together. That brings us to Section 4, 70 Years of Silence, the prescribed period of desolation.
Now, Tyre's punishment wasn't forever. It actually had a very specific prescribed time frame. In verses 15 and 16, the prophet declares, "And it shall come to pass in that day that Tyre shall be forgotten 70 years, according to the days of one king. After the end of 70 years shall Tyre sing as an harlot." So this introduces a period where this once great, deafeningly busy port city is reduced to absolute forgotten silence.
So what is the significance of this 70 years? Well, it directly mirrors Judah's own 70-year period of exile in Babylon. The text calls it the days of one king, which ancient texts, like Psalm 90, describe as a standard, complete human lifespan. Basically, it's an entire generation of silence.
But then, the silence finally breaks. Verse 17 states, "And it shall come to pass after the end of 70 years that the Lord will visit Tyre, and she shall turn to her hire, and shall commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world upon the face of the earth." The city is rebuilt on the island, and it completely returns to its old, massive commercial trade, aggressively networking with all the kingdoms of the world. The text playfully, and kinda harshly, likens it to a harlot returning to her hire.
Let's move to our final section and see how this all builds. Restoration and redemption. Commerce consecrated to the Lord.
This is where the story takes a massive, totally unexpected turn, a real redemptive twist. Verse 18 reads, "And her merchandise and her hire shall be holiness to the Lord. It shall not be treasured nor laid up, for her merchandise shall be for them that dwell before the Lord, to eat sufficiently and for durable clothing." Guys, this is a profound shift. The wealth of this once insanely prideful city is finally consecrated. Instead of hoarding it for self-glorification, that wealth is actually used to supply God's people.
When we contrast Tyre's arrogant past with its repentant future, it is just stunning. Historically speaking, commentators point out that the region did see incredible transformation. We know Jesus and the Apostle Paul both visited the coasts of Tyre and actually found disciples there. And later on, during times of peace, the Tyrians built the most magnificent Christian temple in all of Palestine. They went from a proud city trusting entirely in the strength of the sea to dedicating their massive wealth and merchandise to holiness.
And that brings us to the core takeaway from Isaiah 23. We've seen the rise of a merchant superpower, its catastrophic fall due to hubris, and its incredibly beautiful eventual redemption. It leaves us staring at this very real, very personal question.
Will we let pride be our downfall, like ancient Tyre? Or will we choose to consecrate our greatest strengths and resources to a higher purpose? Think on that for a bit. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible text with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.